Thanks. I know you don't mean it. Don't worry about it. Scott Lee, alcoholic. Good afternoon, guys. Love you dearly. Steve, thank you so much. Your talk yesterday and that thing earlier today really moved me deeply. Thank you so much. You really share your gift beautifully. Thank you. I've got way too many things I want to cover. I have no chance at all to get to it. I said earlier, so many of my heroes are here. And there's one that's notably not here. And I got a text from him, actually 2 or 3 over the last few days. It's Don Landis. Most of you guys know Don. And he asked me to do something I don't want to do, so it must be the right thing. Brandon D., are you here? Where are you? Brandon, where are you? Yeah. He has picked up a permanent nickname, 212. Ask him. He'll hate to tell you. I promised Don I would do that. I'd like to apologize. Let me clean up a couple of pieces from yesterday. I talked about my time with Miss Linda, and we got back together, and then I lost the... Growing old has not been easy on what's left up here. And we got back together in 2015 and stayed together. She nursed me through this cancer, and when I was diagnosed with it in 20, and in April of 21, she rolled over one morning and said, "I don't think you can be the man you need to be and the man I need you to be concurrently, and I think you ought to move out." It was her place. I am not a wealthy man financially. Other ways, yes, but not that way. And so I moved out. I had put my sister in assisted living. I've had power of attorney for quite a while. She's our mother died of Alzheimer's, and I'm pretty sure that's what we're looking at here. And I've had power of attorney for quite a while. And it's hard to watch. My sister was on the dean's list in college. I was on the dean's list too. It was the other list. And it's just been hard to watch. So I had moved my sister out of her house, and I was getting it ready to sell, and so I moved in there, and that's where I'm living. And it was a humbling thing. And yet I stop and I talk to God about it. I say, wow, thank you for this magnificent place I have to live. I have a wonderful place to live, thank you. I didn't earn it, but I've earned a lot of things that I don't have. And his economy is just perfect all the time. So that's what happened on that. Somebody asked me earlier about that baby that I went in and prayed over. Today he's 30 years old and doing just great physically. He's doing just great. It's because I prayed for him. But I don't want to take credit. Also, I talked about my daughter's suicide attempt. I'd like to give you a one-liner from one of the guys I used to sponsor whose son died. And a year later, he was still just ruined. And he said he was deciding to he decided he either had to commit suicide himself or he needed to get back in the game. And he was thinking about the suicide, and it occurred to him that he said, "Suicide does not end my pain. It redistributes it to those who love me." I think that ought to be on the national news. Everybody in the world needs to hear that one. And I've got another one here that I think is the same way. A lady friend of mine in another state and I were having a conversation, and she said that one of the ladies that she sponsored had prostituted herself. And she was trying to figure out how to make amends to herself. And this is what they came up with. She figured out how much money she had made that way. And she donated that amount of money to Magdalene House and some other similar charities. And what she said was, "I sold my self-esteem, I'm buying it back. And I don't care what you've done. I serve a God that's stronger than whatever that is." And that lady got free. I want to share that because I share it every time I get a chance, because I think there's a lot of people that could stand to hear that. This particular session I want to do with you, I call it Mistakes and Lessons, and it's based on my belief that a mistake is just an invitation to a lesson. That's all it is. Because if I'd already learned the lesson, I wouldn't have made the mistake. Yeah, so a mistake is just a lesson dressed in its work clothes. And a number of years ago, I was sitting by actually the stream that Garnet Creek runs into, just not too far from here. And I was just sitting there, and I looked across, and there was a thundercloud. I looked at that thundercloud, and I thought, every drop of rain in that thundercloud is following God's will perfectly. I know they are. And I looked across the stream, and there's a tree. I said, well, so's the tree, and so are the birds in the tree. And so are these little fish in the stream. Why can't I? I knew it was on me hard. Why can't I? And I got my answer. And the answer is, I am. I'm convinced to the depths of my soul that it's not my job to be perfect. If you think it's your job to be perfect, I wish you a lot of luck. It's going to be a tough trip. But if it's not my job to be perfect, what's my job? My job is to make mistakes. They sent the right guy. And I don't learn from our mistakes. All my life I'm saying, well, we learn from our mistakes. No. If that's true, nobody in this room has ever been arrested more than once. Yeah. Guys like me do not learn from our mistakes. We learn from living with the results of our mistakes. If you hold that thought, read the 12 steps, it looks to me like half of them are about me embracing the results of my mistakes. 4 and 5, 8 and 9, 10 and 11, about me embracing the results of my mistakes, which is where I learn. So as I sit and think about that, I come up with what I today believe is the learning process for a guy like me. 1, make a mistake. 2, be notified I made a mistake. I don't always know. 3, own the mistake. Yeah, that was me. And if they only know 80%, I have to tell them the other 20. That's how I own the mistake. And if I don't tell them that 20, they're going to find out later, we're going through this again. Better do it now. I need to own the mistake. 4, consult a spiritual advisor about how to 5, make the amend, because I need help on that. 6, embrace the lesson. The lesson comes with the making of the amend, not with the making of the mistake. That's where I learn it. 7, share the lesson. When I share the lesson, it really sets it for me. 8, when I share the lesson, I have to tell you I made a mistake. If I just share the lesson, I'm preaching, and not too many people want to hear it. When I stand as a sinner beside a sinner, you can hear me. When you tell me you screwed up, I can hear your lesson so much better. 9, make the next mistake. I'm convinced it's God's will for me is to make mistakes, because I simply don't have the power to make a mistake so ugly that he can't turn it into something magnificent. Not fix. I did not say fix. That's who I am. That's who he is. And that's, I think, why I'm here. I think that's why I was put in this skin, so that I could make the mistakes and embrace the lessons. Bob talks all the time about Earth's a school, and I believe that. And that love is the lesson, and I think that is the prime lesson. That's it. That's exactly right. So the way I do that is I own the mistakes, and that's how I embrace the lessons. So what that gave me was my own permission to make mistakes. That is such a phenomenal freedom, because my history is to beat myself up when I make a mistake. I believe that the home I grew up in, I could get about a C- if I was perfect. They expected more. It's not the truth, but that's what I saw. It's not the truth. And so, and I was not physically abused, but psychologically, if I made a mistake of any kind, it was pretty tough. So my history is, I make a mistake, things get bad. So here I am as an alleged adult. If I make a mistake, I beat myself up. That's not what that energy is for, I don't believe today. I think that energy is there to propel me through the rest of that learning process, not to beat myself up. The book does not give me permission to beat myself up anywhere. That's not it. I tell the guys I sponsor, you got permission to beat yourself up right after I do it the first time, and not a minute before. That's not what this is about. So, but that's only half the freedom. My own permission to make mistakes. The other half is you have my permission to make mistakes. That includes these fabulous men that I sponsor. It includes people on major politicians that I disagree with. It includes 2 former wives. It includes those of you who got your driver's licenses out of Cheerios boxes. It includes everybody. Because if I'm going to be upset about what you do, I'm a prisoner of your behavior. And I don't want to be a prisoner anymore. So you have my permission to make mistakes. And those two things, my permission to make mistakes and my permission for you to make mistakes, have freed me. There is a tremendous freedom that's come with that. I discovered the source of all anger. For me, I tell you where every bit of it comes from. It comes from being sure I'm right. I have never been angry who I'm also dead solid certain I was right. And being right comes from having passed judgment. Have to judge to be right, to be angry. So judgment is the grandfather or grandmother of anger. That's where all my anger comes from. That's why I can't treat my anger, because it's not the problem, it's a symptom. The problem is I judged. This started coming to me in 2015. I woke up one morning and I was doing meditation, and I suddenly saw how judgmental I am. Not like I hadn't been all my life, but I just saw it for the first time. And before the cancer, I was 60 pounds overweight. And I would judge you for being heavy. In my 70s, I wear a ponytail. I judge you for having a funny haircut. I'm walking around judging people all day long and putting them down. As I look at it today, I think that came from that extremely low self-esteem. If I put you down, it somehow lifts me up. I don't know that it's accurate. That's what I see. But I realized I was doing that. And I thought, I don't believe God wants me to judge. And yet I can't stop. And I think what that is an invitation to prayer. And so I added to my morning prayer. I asked God, please bless me that I don't judge, that I don't judge any situations. There's a war going on over there in Ukraine right now. And I'm the grand sponsor, great-grand sponsor of guys that are on the front lines on both sides of that. I can't even imagine going back into a war. And yet I can't stand here and say that war is bad. I don't get to say it's good or bad. Because for all I know, that war has turned more people toward God than all the churches in the universe. I don't know. I can tell you I don't like it. But I have to get out of the business of judging things as good or bad, because it just makes me crazy. It makes me absolutely crazy. I was talking earlier about motive. I think maybe the worst part about motive is if I think I have a good motive and you oppose me, then you have a bad motive, and you're a bad person, and you deserve me to hate you, and I do. It's the biggest problem that faces my nation today. It's exactly where we are. It's exactly where we are. So I ask God to bless me, please, that I don't judge any situations as good or bad. And I don't judge any people as good or bad, that I don't judge their motives, and that I see them as you see them and love them as you love them, especially the ones I find unlovable. Because I got times when I'm unlovable, and I don't need you to judge me then. I'm probably covering that pretty well myself. That's when I need you to love me. So it must be when you're unlovable, that must be when you need me to love you. And I ain't batting 1,000 on this, but I can report some serious progress. And I'll be walking through the grocery store, and I'll see a woman in there, and she's very well nourished. And yeah, and I'll judge her. And I'll say, oh God, that looks so terrible. And this is what happens inside me now because of that prayer. I think, yes, God, you think that doesn't look good? What do you think she thinks? She has fought the good fight. She has fought that as long and as hard as she could with all she had. And that's the best she could do. And maybe if you were, because she's trapped in there. She's going to be in there tomorrow morning when she wakes up. Maybe if you were in her situation, you would be doing anywhere near as well as she is. Father, I've judged. Please take that away. I don't want to judge. Bless that child. I cannot imagine how hard her life has got to be. Blessings on her. It changed me. It changed me. I don't want to judge. And so anger's source is being sure I'm right. Have you ever heard a preacher preaching and you hear an undertone of anger in his preaching? I've heard it. I think it's because he's sure he's right. So I want to get out of that business, and yet I can't get out. And so I add that to my morning prayer, and it has changed me dramatically, dramatically. It's occurred to me that it's possible, it's not likely, but it's possible that everybody I see today is doing the very best they can with what they got. They could be. And if they are, they're all ahead of me. Because I'm getting by on cute and clever and glib, and I've never had it all on the road. And I have never worked this program to the best of my ability either. I work to the best of my willingness, and some days that's pretty thin. And I am not in a position to judge. And it's one of the most important things that's ever been presented to me. Changing to another mistaken lesson. I was sober about 2 years. I was standing in the old Woodbine Club having a discussion with another member before a meeting. Now, not being as spiritually evolved as I am, you might have thought it was an argument. And it was about something really important, like maybe whether I was recovered or recovering, something that really needed to be hammered out, you know. And I don't know, and old Joe B. walked in, and Joe was very intelligent. He'd been sober since a month before the earth began to cool. So he was clearly going to be on my side of this burning issue, which I still can't remember what it was. And as he poured his coffee, I posed the question, Joe, what do you think? And Joe said, I am not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Do not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorse nor oppose any causes. My primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. And by the time he finished that little soliloquy, my opponent and I were laughing. It took me about a month, and I went to Joe and I said, you meant that? And he said, oh yeah. Joe was living the AA preamble, and he believed primary meant nothing gets in between me and that. And you could not draw him into controversy. He wouldn't go. He wouldn't go. Wow. Some of these teachers are amazing. Some of you who were at the meditation last night heard me talk about Rusty, old John B. And this is one from him, page 57. I just love this. Save for a few brief moments of temptation, the thought of drink has never returned. Such times a great revulsion has risen up in him. Seeming he could not drink if he would. God had restored his sanity. John said there's two kinds of sanity. There's sanity of action and sanity of mind. And he said, in the history of planet Earth, no human has ever been put in an insane asylum for being insane. Never, not once. They put us in there for acting insane. Nobody's ever been let out for being sane. They let us out for acting sane. So on those days when you're crazy, if you don't act on it, they won't know. Don't tell them they're not ready. Pick up the phone. Tell one of us we're ready and we're not all crazy on the same day. That's some of the best advice I ever got in my life, man. And so when you're crazy, don't act on it. They won't know. What did you say, Joe? You walk around undetected amongst normal people, yeah. They don't know. It's amazing. I'm just bouncing around. I'm working from notes here. I have studied for this test. This means the world to me to come up here and do this, and I've got so many things I wanted to cover. He said anonymity. I'm going back to my first sponsor, Jerry Crow. He defined anonymity. He said, anonymity is doing something good for somebody else and not getting caught. The day before I got to recovery, if I did something good, I told the world. If I did something bad, I hid it, I laid it off on you, I lied about it. In recovery, it's the other way. If I do something bad, I got to tell you. We've done some of that here. I got to tell you, and I got to clean it up. If I do something good, I have to hide it. And what I've discovered is that I'll tell a story. It's been several years ago. It's about December 23rd. It's just about time to start Christmas shopping. It's almost time. So I was getting an early start. And I was trying to get into the Green Hills Mall. And I was on Hillsborough Road. And I watched that light change maybe 4 times. And it's spitting snow and rain. It's a mess. And I make the turn finally into the mall, and I get a beam the store I want to go in, and turn down the parking lane just in time to see the lady back out of the place right next to the handicapped. And I got this flash. And what the flash said was, "You're young. Your legs are in good shape. You don't need that parking place. Why don't you drive all the way down to the other end and park there and walk through the snow and rain and leave that great parking place for one of God's other kids so that they can have a fabulous day?" Because when something like that happens, God gets the credit and I get the gift. Somebody pulled in that parking place and said, "Thank God for this great parking place." God gets the thanks and I get the gift. And the gift is a piece of sunshine about the size of a clown nose that lodges itself in my chest. And I can think about what I did any time of the day or night, and it will glow and send light through my whole body. But if I tell, it gets out with the words. And that's what anonymity is doing something good for somebody else and not getting caught. And it's hard. And I've shared that one before. I've got another one I share sometimes. I was between wives, and I was fishing in the state park, and there was a family there. And they got 3 or 4 kids, and there was a 7-year-old boy. It looks like he and I are going to fish together today. I'm going to cast, and he's going to do everything else. And the kid was a fish. First time he ever held a rod. He was a fisherman. I got it. I was a fisherman at 7. I was born with it. And we caught a few. I got to know the family. I took him on a couple of short trips around town. And he had it. And he was 8 years old. And I got his parents' permission. And the Buffalo River is about another hour west of here. And we put a canoe in the Buffalo River and floated 5 miles of river in 8 hours and caught over 100 fish. It was one of those magic days where you couldn't get it away from him. Just couldn't. The kid caught a 4-pound smallmouth bass, man. He got my fish. I'm really okay with it. I was so happy for him. And but about a mile before the takeout, where there's nothing, and all of a sudden the sky blackens, and I hear the thunder, and there's nothing we can do but hunker down and take it. I slid over to the side under some trees to try to get a little bit of shielding from this storm that was coming. And I'm giving God a little piece of this prayer. You see, did you happen to notice St. Scott? I'm not even kidding. He caught my feet doing this prayer. And this beautiful little guy looks over his shoulder at me and he says, "Is it okay to fish here?" Let me tell you something. You prayed that 3rd step prayer, these lessons will drop out of the sky on you at the strangest times. Because what I learned from that was when the skies in my life blacken and I hear the thunder and there's no place to take out, that's the prayer I'm supposed to take to him. Is it okay to fish here? Because you see, that assignment never changes. It doesn't change. Whew. Wow. I should apologize before I tell you this one, because knowledge is a terrible thing. Because once you got it, you can't put it back. You're stuck with it. And who's had the experience of somebody you sponsor or somebody who has the right to ask you a question, ask the question, the moment before they ask you didn't know the answer, and you open your mouth and a piece of the great truth that you didn't know falls out, and 3 hours later you can't quote it, sometimes you can't remember it. Look around, look at this. Yeah, that's what's available here. Wouldn't you love to have a book of all of those things? Oh, my heavenly days. Well, this one came, a fellow I sponsored, and he was torn between, should I do this, should I do that? I can't do both. And I heard myself say, which one would you rather do? And he said, well, I'd rather do A. I said, well, in that case, B is the correct answer. Because if A were the right answer, there'd be no dilemma. So when I can't decide which to do, I ask myself the question, which would I rather do? If I can answer the question, I have to do the other one. I'm sorry, you're stuck with that. Changing, just bouncing around again. I was flying that 4-engine jet, and we took 2-week trips. It was not unusual to be gone 10 or 12 days. And I'm going on about a 10 or 12-day trip. I'm letting down into home station. I'm a 26-year-old, very virile man. I've got a beautiful young wife at home. And I've got a really good plan what I'd like to be doing about a minute and a half after I get home. I have a plan. And I walk in the house just in time to see my 1-year-old son get up from his nap. And what I want to do is going to have to wait. And with a big smile. I loved him then, I love him now. And I'm down on the floor with my son, wrestling around a horsey ride, the things you will do with a 1-year-old boy that you love. And about 20 minutes later, it crosses my mind, I'm not horny anymore. I did not have sex with my son. What happened was I got my touch need met. And from the inside, I can't tell the difference between the need to have sex and the need to be touched. The Fredericks experiment, some of you are familiar with it, many years ago, they separated a group of babies, A and B. These we're going to touch all we can, these we're not going to touch at all. See what happens? These sickened and died. The skin is the biggest organ in the body, and we have a need to be touched. We're herd animals. The herd animals need to be bump against each other. There's only a couple of ways for a guy like me to get that touch need met. The obvious one is to have sex with the female. Wrestle with a golden retriever, a pretty good-sized cat, a child. Contact sport, football, rugby, hockey. Next time you watch a game, watch them and see if you know they're not getting something out of bumping up against each other. We have a need to be touched. And from the inside, it looks just like the need to have sex. They look just the same from the inside. And we tell a new guy, leave the ladies alone. Now, they say for a year. I can't for the life of me figure out what the magic is in 365 days. What I ask him is to leave them alone until I get you through the step work. Because as sick as you are, your chances of attracting a healthy female are not good. Now, you may currently have one fooled, but when she sees the truth, she's going to hit the door. And I get this from Don Pritz, and so I'm going to recommend you leave them alone until I get you through the step work, because we get you through the step work, get you healthy, you have the chance to attract a healthy female. Now, you can ignore my advice in this category, but don't bring me the problems you create for yourself in this arena. I've already told you what I think you need to do, so I don't have to listen to it. But if we're going to tell them to leave the ladies alone, maybe we better give him some help with getting his touch need met. I don't know if I hope you have all had the experience I have had here. We're a hugging group of guys, and I've been that way for a long time. My best friend broke up with his girlfriend about 6 months ago, and the first thing I asked him was, are you getting your touch need met? No? Well, get over here. And I hug him and I hold him, and that's all that's going on there is I'm loving that man. And when I get a new guy to sponsor, I hold them the first time. I just hold them till they quit thrashing. You know? And I tell them that. I say, you're going to get used to this. You're going to get another sponsor because this is what I do, because I think we both need it very badly. I think it's one of the biggest problems in my society is that people are not getting their touch need met. And it can drive me in an awful lot of ways crazy. That's just me. That's what I think. Changing horses again, and forgive the soapbox, but I think we're giving love a bad name. There are two things that really trouble me on that. People talk about tough love. The greatest treatise I ever read on love didn't say anything at all about tough. My experience has been anybody applying what they call tough love looked to me like unresolved control issues, like using the truth as a bludgeon. And I quoted Don Major earlier as saying it's compassionate honesty. And that troubles me. The one that troubles me even worse is when somebody says unconditional love. God, that rubs my fur the wrong way. Because it implies that there's such a thing as conditional love, and I don't believe there is. I believe love is by her very nature without condition. And the word unconditional does not modify love. Love is without condition. And when you say unconditional love, you've implied there's such a thing as conditional love, and I don't believe there is. Many of us, I for one, grew up in homes where conditional approval or conditional acceptance were where the love should have been. Love is by her nature without condition. I talked about the clown nose for a second. One of my standing assignments is to spread joy. It's really that simple. And one of the best places to do that, we got traffic jams in Nashville now. They're moving here so fast from up north. We've got almost as many Yankees as people in Nashville now. And did I say that wrong? And but anyway, we got traffic jams now. You know I love you, Tommy. We got traffic jams now. We never did before. And when I-40 comes to stop downtown, I put on the clown nose, and I drop my window a little ways, and I blow bubbles out the window to get the other driver's attention. And they see the clown nose, and they start laughing. And laughter's contagious, I start laughing. And we're still stuck in traffic, but I've turned it into a party. And if it looks like we're really stuck there, I put it in park and get out and start passing out clown noses and bubbles, and I got them. I'm holding. I buy these things, and I buy the noses in bags of 50, and I buy the bubbles in containers of 75. They're not hard to find. I got them all the time. Another time, too, that they're really fun. Walking through the grocery store, and there's a mom in there. She's got 2 kids, and they're good kids. I know they are. They're just having a hard day. And I get about as far away as I am from Jack, and I put on a clown nose, and I blow some bubbles. And kids will come they'll lock onto bubbles like a good bird dog coming on. Point! And you'd be surprised how small a kid will say bubbles. It's got to be one of their first 100 words. And I go up to the mom. Now, because I'm a stranger, I don't give the kids anything. But I say, Mom, can the kids have the bubbles and clown noses? Sometimes they say no. I had to know here a month or so ago. But usually they say yes. All right, what happened? What happened there? Those kids had their day lifted. Who else? Mom? Who else? Everyone that saw it? Who else? What I've discovered is if I'm sloshing love and joy all over you, it splatters onto me every time. There's no way to block it. And spreading joy is one of my standing assignments. I look constantly for ways to compliment people. That has to be honest. You don't want to make amends for having said something nice. You know, you got, a heads-up penny is a lucky penny, right? I don't pick those up. And if it's tails, I've been down to turn it over. I'll be 81 years old in June. When I've been down, I think, is there anything else I need to do while I'm down here? And I turn them over and leave a lucky penny for somebody I'll never see. Put your blinker on near me in traffic, I will let you in. If you haven't figured it out yet, I'm what they call a type A personality. I get in that car, I am going somewhere. Put your blinker on, I slow down, let you in. It's a spiritual experience every time. Because that's what I think I'm supposed to do. I already told you about the parking place. I don't park in close. When I go to bed tonight, I want to believe that planet Earth was a better place because I was here today. And I think the first key to that begins in the morning. Actually, begins, I said, the night before, by doing the last right thing, which is go to bed at a reasonable hour and set an alarm so I can get up tomorrow morning, start my day on a spiritual basis. And I get plugged in and stay plugged in, amazing things happen. Get a chance to compliment. That's what the bow tie is about. I can't see this thing. It's not for me. You'd be surprised how many people will look at that bow tie and just smile. I have very few days when I'm out among the humans that at least one of them doesn't comment. And they say, good bow tie or pretty, but they always say bow tie. It's always in there. I learned from Winston Churchill, somebody asked him one time, his bow tie was never straight, it was never right. Why? And he said, because I want you to know I tied it. The clip-ons are perfect. I want you to know I tied this thing. The other reason is some of the ladies can't stand that. And they'll say, can I fix that for you? Oh, sure, darling, go right ahead. Have a good time, sweetie. Yeah. I think of it as bait. But it's about looking for ways to lift other people's spirits. That's what it's about. I was talking about some other mistakes that I've made. I was badly confused about acceptance, that thing that Dr. Paul wrote about acceptance. What I've learned is that acceptance doesn't include approval. If I approve of it, I automatically accept it. Promoting me at work, I accept. There's no effort required. But the acceptance we talk about is where I'm going to accept something that I don't approve of, that I would not have chosen. And I think it's two things. It's a state of mind. It's a commitment to my mind. I get a limited amount of spiritual energy on any given day. If I squander on things for which I have no power, I will not have enough left for my own assignments today. So I don't need to be squandering my energy. So I have to stay committed to being present in my own life, moment by moment, and continue to carry. Do you ever meditate? Anybody here meditate? Try to get your mind to a place where there's nothing? I just succeeded. I have no idea what I was talking about when I started into that thing. Does anybody know where I was? What was it? Acceptance. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right, you can ignore that last assignment I gave you all if you're good. So acceptance is first a state of mind. I can change my mind, but it's also a state of spirit. But I can't change my spirit. But I can change my mind. So I can commit myself to not squandering energy on something I got no power over. And over time, it will be part of my spirit. It'll become a very natural thing for me. It takes some time, but I don't make that happen. I can make the mind thing happen, but the spirit thing I can't. Where's Bear? Bear still here? Are you awake? Oh yeah, there you are. Hey. The questions aren't going to get any harder, Bear. Don't worry about it. I was in Chicago at the Mustard Seed Club 35 years ago. And this lady said, my priority is not what I say it is. My priority is what I do. If I want to find out what my priorities are, I don't listen to my words about the future. I looked at my actions in the recent past. What was accomplished was a priority. What was not accomplished was not a priority. And anything I say to the contrary is a lie I'm telling myself, and I hated it when she said that. Because I was saying things were a priority and I wasn't doing anything about them. And I think that's why, for me, the evening half of step 11 is so critically important, so I can find out what my priorities were today. Another one I want to touch on just very briefly is, like, I know we got a few new guys here. Who in this room has had a dream about drinking or drugs this calendar year? Pretty good number, yeah. So I was sober about 6 months, and man, I'm having the dreams. I mean, I got the one where I'm at the corner of the bar, and I'm drinking a Coke, my buddy's drinking a beer, but we're eye contact, and I pick up the beer, my mistake, and I have a sip in my dream, and I wake up, I spend the rest of the night worrying if that happens, do I have to get another desire chip? And you see the Cheech and Chong movies? I'm smoking this joint, takes two people to hold up. I'm having these dreams, it's making me cry. It finally got so bad, I was honest with my sponsor. I said, Jerry, I'm having these dreams. And he said, you want to know what it means? I said, yes. He said, I'm going to tell you what it means when you wake up from one of those dreams. When you wake up from one of those dreams, what it means is it's time to tinkle. Don't take my word for it. Trot down the hall and check. And then get back in your bed and have you a gratitude prayer. It was only a dream. I was sober between 30 and 31 years, and I had two of those dreams in the same night. It's the only time that's ever happened. So if you're new, don't be concerned about that. What Jerry said was that stuff was a major part of your life for a long time. You're going to dream about it. You're going to dream about it. I get 2,500 hours of flying time in the United States Air Force. I still dream flying occasionally. I am not going to the recruiter's office this afternoon. Don't worry about it. Give us a call. Do the gratitude prayer. Check. Go down the hall and check. Jerry was right about that. I had to pee every time I woke up from one of those things. He was exactly right about that. Speaking at conferences fell out of the sky on me when I was sober 10 years. Just all of a sudden it just got here. And I had a customer in Morristown, Tennessee. He was a very religious guy. He was also very spiritual. And I told him, he was so excited when I got sober, he didn't know I had a problem, but he was so excited for me. And we used to have really good conversations. And I started speaking at conferences. And he said, do they record those? And I said, yeah. He said, well, bring me one. I want to hear you. I'm on the way to his office, and I got a cassette And it occurs to me, there's something on that cassette I don't want Charlie to hear me say. So I lied my way out of it. And he said, well, bring me the next one. And so I said, okay, I will. And I'm on the way to his office of the next one. And I realized there's something on that cassette I wouldn't want Charlie to hear me say. Charlie died. And I never did get him a cassette, but I got a great lesson. And the lesson was I never have an excuse of any kind to say anything into this microphone I would not want Charlie to hear, ever. There's simply no reason for it. And this is for me. I'm not selling it to you. This is me. And then it occurred to me, I have no reason in any AA meeting to ever say anything I wouldn't want Charlie to hear. I don't know who just brought their mother and their preacher in to see them get their 66-monthship in their new spiritual program. I don't know who's here. There's no reason for me to ever say anything I wouldn't want Charlie to hear. And then it occurred to me, and I'm doing pretty well on those two, then it occurred to me I never in my life ever have any reason to say anything I wouldn't want Charlie to hear. I'm not batting 1,000 on that, but I can report a tremendous amount of progress. Tremendous amount of progress, and it's been really important to me. I keep saying it, but it's the truth. The last time I was between wives, I've got a photograph taken of me when I was about 4 years old. A beautiful little boy standing there in a jumper and a straw hat and a big grin. And not too long after that picture was taken, some things happened to that little child. It should never happen to any child. And I'm not here to talk about that, and I think you may have noticed my demeanor didn't change when I told you that. Because when I went through the forgiveness process in step 4, I became emotionally disconnected from all your mistakes in the past. Through step 9, I became emotionally disconnected from all of my mistakes in the past. They're now just facts out of my, like I also was born in Georgia, they're just facts now. I'm not emotionally connected to them. But I had that picture blown up 2 feet wide, 3 feet tall, put on the wall at the foot of my bed. I had no idea why I did that. And it was the last thing I saw at night and the first thing I saw every morning. And I was looking at that one time and I thought, who would he have become? That beautiful little child of God, who would he have become if those things had not happened to him? If he had received all the love and nurturing and guidance he clearly deserved as a child of God, who would he have become? And I got my answer. And the answer is, that's my assignment. Steve talked about it so beautifully. That's my assignment, to become the man he would have become. And I serve the God of love who is stronger than all of that stuff. And there's only a single question. Am I willing to do the work? So far I have been. So far I've been willing to do the work. There's always ever really one question at any given time in my day, and that's what's the next most loving thing I can say or do. And for right now, it is to say that I have so far become the man he would have become. I've cleaned up my language. I learned to cry. I'm in touch with my emotions, how my spirit communicates with my mind and my body. I'm in touch with that. I became okay with me. And as I became okay with me, it got really easy to become okay with you. Serving the God of love is not a part-time job. And I want to thank you. If you get close to me, I will hug you this weekend. You've been warned. Thank you.